So I'm Chris Wheeler. I'm an interim consultant, and I have worked on numerous projects as either a business analyst, a data analyst, a finance analyst, a functional as a non-functional consultant, across the board from the functional side into also the IT side, systems implementations, integrations, transformations, anything that has been about development and optimization of processes. All of that's been my background. Um, and I've done it for quite a few years now, and I've really, really enjoyed it. I wish I'd done this much earlier on in my career. This is
Yeah,
clearly my sweet spot.
real lovely. Okay, so in terms of your functional side and the finance, I guess, side of the work that you do, could you maybe talk to me about the the specifics of the ERPs that you've worked with and a little bit about the Epicor projects that you did?
Yes. So I've worked with SAP HANA, D365, Microsoft Dynamics 365, Epicor, then on the EPM side, the Tagetic, Anaplan. I've worked with OneStream. I've worked across that whole range of systems.
Yeah,
For Epicor, it's probably been less system development side and more user side. I worked with it at Marshall's, but I was also involved in the selection process for a new system, which was to replace Epicor. And as such, we had to analyze what Epicor currently did.
yeah.
And my particular functional expertise was in the finance area. I was looking after the controllership. So I'd be dealing with the accounts payable, reporting, intercompany transactions or interdivisional transactions. All of that was under my remit.
Yeah, brill, lovely. And in terms of the work that you did there, obviously you will have had to speak with everyone up to, C-suite level. How would you describe your interpersonal skills, having to have sometimes quite difficult conversations with CFOs, CTOs? How did you do with that?
Well, I think I would, it's in summary, I used to be a referee and a referee coach. And the important thing when you are in that role is to be clear what it is that you're trying to set out to do, and to be honest, very, very honest about what
Yeah,
you're trying to do. So there's no point in trying to hoodwink somebody. You have to say, I know this, I know that, I know the other. I'm not sure about this, and I definitely don't know that.
yeah,
Provided you're clear about these things, most people are fine with that. The biggest area where I've come into, shall we say, friction, shall we say, is often about timings.
yeah,
So I'm able to, because I'm effectively the functional expert or the subject matter expert, I'm often have a much closer view as to when something can be completed because I'm the one involved in it. And I learned fairly early on in my career that when you're speaking with CEOs and C-suite level people, you have to be conservative in your estimates and be
yeah,
really confident in them before you say something because they're always going to want to beat you back. So if you say it's going to be deliverable in a week or in a day or whatever it is, and you don't deliver, they will never forget that. And
yeah,
you will be classed as the person who delivers it late. I'd much rather be known as the person who delivered early. I'd be
yeah.
conservative with my estimate and deliver early.
Okay, brill. Um, okay. How would you explain a deliverable to a CEO, a CFO, like a roadmap? How do you think you'd be able to translate what they want into what you're going to say to them?
Uh, I I resort to visual techniques.
Okay.
I love to draw something out. So either I've prepared something to explain the roadmap of how we're aiming to get there, or if we have nothing, no tools, I will sit down with a piece of paper and a pencil and I'll draw it out.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate side of doing something visual like that is that it doesn't often have enough data in there. So one of the things I will always try and do is, particularly when talking about a roadmap, is to try and add that data to it.
Yeah.
So be that either in terms of the scale of the difference between one box and the next box and the next box, or be that the size of the boxes, or be that by actually writing numbers in there,
Yeah.
they need to be clear about what it is that we are proposing and what we're saying will happen.
Yeah.
And it's very it's not difficult to present things visually, but it is so powerful. It sometimes needs a bit of acrobatics, but it is so powerful to draw something visually, and people become used to that clarity of communication.
Okay. Yeah, bro. Lovely. The next one I'm going to touch on is your consulting experience, because I know you have done quite a few different interim roles. Now,
Mm.
obviously, with a principal consultant role, it's going to be needed. So could you talk me through your consulting experience, how you go around consulting, things like that?
Yes, so there's sort in many of their roles, it's either effectively an internal consulting role or stakeholder management. And
Yeah.
the key for me is to do the work ahead. So I very early on in my career, it's probably not even on the CV. I worked for a management consultancy,
Hmm.
and when we were bidding for contracts, we effectively did 80% of the work at the bid stage
Yeah.
before we even won the contract. So similarly, I bring that to the way I do things. I try and preload all the work so that when I come to a meeting, when I come to a discussion, when I come to anything to do with clients or either external or any set of stakeholders, that I'm fully informed, or as much as I can be, and that then we have a dialogue of equals rather than being behind the curve.
Yeah.
And I think that is, in terms of what my consulting experience has brought to the party, that's what it's brought. In terms of my consulting experience, I have looked to execute. So often the roles are to execute something. So
Yeah.
I brought my skills in executing a particular activity, but at the same time brought also my broader experience to the table,
Yeah.
both from a functional perspective as well as a stakeholder perspective, because often, almost always, change involves people. And if you don't bring their minds and souls with you, you can't bring their actions. You can tell them to type something into the machine, but if they don't do it willingly, it's not going to happen. The data is going to be
Yeah.
rubbish. You're not going to get to the end result that you want. So my consulting experience is to balance functional activity with also sympathy or empathy in terms of execution at a personal level.
Yeah. Well, lovely. Um, Next one, in terms of solution
Mm.
experience, talk me through it.
Well, this is my favorite topic, right? So why do I do this consulting work? Why do I do this contracting work? It's because I love problems, right?
Okay.
And and so it's a joy for me to face something that I don't know the answer to. So particularly when I don't know the answer or it's not obvious, I love to think about how to unpick it. And it's like a Gorgon's knot. You can either come to it and just chop it, which sometimes is the appropriate solution because you haven't got time. So you have to be ruthless and just cut through everything. But I love to unpick that knot to try and work out why that thread has gone this way and then wriggled left and then right.
Yeah.
All of that nonsense is a joy for me. And I will look, the way I do this is often through data. So I'll
Yeah.
look through the data and I'll unpick the data until it's clear that what somebody has said is or is not an accurate portrayal of the truth, and that therefore from that often there's a solution that comes out. And I'm afraid it's almost always data driven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of your finance skills, I know you touched on it at the beginning.
Hmm.
Do you do much with the config on the finance modules?
Yes, that's critical. You have to start off by being absolutely clear what it is you're trying to do. I mean, clearly you need to set up the system, your general ledger, your chart of accounts, your
Yeah.
master data needs to be set up properly. Then you've got your processes in terms of financial reporting, transaction processing.
Yeah.
You've got your compliance to make sure that the checks and balances are in place. I've done that for a number of systems, not
Hmm.
Epicor, but for a number of other systems.
Yeah. Okay. And I want to also touch on something that you mentioned before, the
Hmm.
intercompany trading and things like that. It's not necessarily something that I'm very well versed on, but perhaps you could kind of school me on it a little bit.
Right. Well, it's almost always where a lot of problems arise because people seem to put intercompany reconciliations to the back burner. And
Yep,
it can be a real can of worms when you come to any transformation, any changes to a system, because you've got hidden problems there.
yep,
So in the process of intercompany trading, you normally have to eliminate intercompany transactions when you're consolidating.
yep,
And simplistically put, one says, I've sold you X number of goods at this price, and the other entity needs to agree that. If they don't agree, then they're normally given a little bit of time to understand and get to the bottom of why there is a disagreement. Has stock been lost in transit? Was there a disagreement about the original terms? Was the price wrong? Was the quantity? All sorts of things like that. You need to just get to the bottom of why those have occurred
yep,
and have a policy in place to write off things if there is no. So, in one organization, one way to do it was if you couldn't get to a solution within 3 months, then the receiving party's entries were accepted. So in other words, if I was receiving the cash for a sale of goods to company B
yep.
and I'm in dispute in some shape or I can't resolve the dispute,
Hmm.
then at the end of 3 months, that my version of events would be what would go into the accounts,
Yep.
and the other company would have to sort out whatever's going on in their company's accounts.
Okay.
So an area of lots of difficulties because people don't communicate often enough about it, and they
Yep.
don't spend time doing it because they think, oh, it's just another part of our company. But it really can, especially in sell-offs or mergers or breakups or any international organization reporting, it can lead to some significant errors in accounts.
Yep. Okay. Lovely. I'm going to ask another one. In terms
Mm.
of the job description, I know that you have it, you had a look through it. Why do you think you'd be good for the role?
I think so. So I've got functional expertise, which will stand me in good stead.
Hmm.
I think communicating with stakeholders, I'm good at that. I generally try and visualize things. So be that boxes of data or be that boxes of processes.
Yeah.
Love problem solving. I love approaching different problems. So I like the change. So I'm very adaptable and I quickly learn new systems and adapt to different business environments.
Yeah.
And that's something that drives me forwards.
Yeah.
And I enjoy teamwork. I love teamwork. So whether usually it's within an internal team, but I love teamwork with clients. I mean, I come from a rugby background. You know, you sacrifice yourself for the team. You
Yeah.
put your body on the line to make sure the team moves the ball forwards to put it over the try line. And in business, I am a team worker with clear goals that I want to get that ball down over the line.
Yeah. Bro. And in terms of the teams that you've worked with in the past, have you ever had to face any sort of um, management having tough conversations with, I don't want to say your lowers, but people that you're working with?
The serfs,
Well,
right? No,
I,
I'm
ne-
keeping
I
this.
nearly said
That was
minions there,
humorous.
so we're
No, right. So yes, I do, and again, I draw on my refereeing experience in that it's important to establish first of all what it is that you expect from people.
mhm,
So if somebody's reporting into me, be that directly or be that in a matrix type organization,
yeah,
I'm always clear as to, or I try and be clear as to what I expect from this relationship. So I'm not saying it's somebody who reports into me or is superior to me. I just want to make clear how our communication is going to work. And the key to any of this relationship is about communication. So I will speak to people and make clear to them what it is either that I'm expecting of them or what it is that I'm going to deliver to them because it works,
yeah,
it's a 360 process. And the reason for me doing that is that nobody's disappointed then. So when somebody doesn't deliver what I've asked them to do, sorry, nobody can claim to not be clear about what it is that I expect of them.
yeah,
So when they don't deliver it, I go back to look, we had this conversation. You and I discussed it. I wanted you to deliver three things
Yeah.
and in this timetable, and you agreed to it. We
Yeah.
talked it through, and I said, number one, if anything changes from what we've agreed, you need to communicate with me. That's
Hmm.
always my big thing. If they don't communicate, I'm on them like a ton of bricks. If there's an obstacle to them doing it, I'm there to help them. You know,
Yeah.
the obstacles, unexpected things happen. Let's talk about it. But I need to set expectations of what I'm expecting, and then they need to deliver it. If they do not do that and they haven't communicated,
Yeah.
I am quite unforgiving, because
Okay.
that's important that people recognize that when we discuss things, when we agree to things, that this is trust on both sides. I'm trusting them to deliver, and they must trust me that I'm going to measure them against that clearly set out goal.
Yeah.
As such, when it happens, conflict is not anger, it's more around disappointment.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
There's not that emotional involvement in it.